like to introduce Sid Mathur, who will be presenting high-quality IP geofeeds using AI coding assistance and MCP. Sid is the founder of Fastah, and he is taking the Nano stage for the first time here today. Let's welcome Sid. Now you have the stage.
Thank you. So good afternoon, all. I hope you had good coffee and are fully energized about. Okay, we went back to the old slide somehow. One second. So the slides on both TVs are different. There are two different files. The one on the screen is the old one. Sorry about the technical difficulty. We're going to start in a moment, no matter what. Yes. Okay. So sorry about that. So we all love our share of Netflix. And what if we have a friend called Lisa who wants to watch Netflix but happens to see this error that viewing this video or the stream is not allowed in your country, and she happens to go on the Netflix website seeking help, and she's shown this screen where she debugs the error, as in Netflix thinks I'm in a different country. She's able to tell this much because that's what the Netflix player shows her. And then she sees that there is a long list of very technical checklists at the bottom of this page, one of which is about contacting your ISP. And as a consumer and as a Netflix lover, this is something that I don't want to be doing. It has a really long checklist, and it has a very complicated workflow at the bottom about if this, do that, if else, do this, right? So you might as well write a support program or a script to debug all of these IP addresses. So she would rather go to a dentist for an elective procedure rather than talk with her ISP about what her perception of her ISP's IP address allocation and geolocation is. So if you are in the business of managing IPs on the public internet, you are effectively in the business of managing the IP location, the reputation. And as you all know, one essential part of it is the geo reputation of it. And like in life, there is no trying. You have to work hard to maintain that reputation, to A, advertise the reputation, and B, keep that reputation. So what are IP geofeeds again, and why do we need them? So as the internet has become more and more country-specific and now increasingly a state-specific tool, there are many regulatory and government, financial security, all of which are usually handed down from a regulator or a country's governing laws. So we need them for numerous legal reasons that you as a consumer may always not be aware of. And as a consumer, we of course need it for the Lisa use case that we just discussed about streaming Netflix correctly, or having to be sold Red Sox jersey correctly if you're happening to be browsing from the New England area. So as a consumer, we expect it, and as a business, we require it, whether we like it or not. So there are two tools in our arsenal. One is RFC 8805, and that's primarily about how you author it. And the authoring comes in two parts. One is the syntax or the structure, and the other is the semantics of what's inside that file. So this is an example of 8805 feed, and you can see it has your INET nums or your ranges or subnets, and it has a list of key comma separated values, which happen to be a two-letter country code and a state code. The state code is optional, so is the country code, but we'll get into that in a moment. So the other part is, how do you tell the wide world that you have IPs and you wish to communicate a reputation, say a geo-reputation in this case, or a geo-identity in this case associated with those records. So this is 9632 is about publishing and advertising and discovery, right? So this is something that a lot of people are not aware of in the operator community. And I wish there are two other companies in this room who aggregate geofeeds like us, at least. So my personal hope is that more of us in this room, in the audience, understand that there are well-defined mechanisms to advertise feeds and allow the wider world to discover and process them, right? So we're going to talk about best practices because that's what this talk is about for the first half. And then we are going to segue into the AI tools in the second half. So in terms of authoring, we often see feeds that are rarely updated. That's not a good thing. It means that you as an organization have not picked up a cadence or a tempo for updating them regularly. Even if it's no change, you may want to fix bugs in geolocation or do other things to just indicate to the wider world that those files and those assets are being updated in a manner which is frequent enough. Then we'll go into workflow and geolocation semantics. So cadence is important. Whether you are a small ISP or a big ISP, you should pick what works for you. And you should make sure you spit out something on the public web in a way that's discoverable. The discoverability part we'll go in a bit as we go into 9632 briefly later in the talk. So a workflow may look like you pulling data from your IPAM, IP address manager, validating the feed that you've written or edited, and then pushing it out to the public server. And more importantly, for the discovery part, recording it in your regional internet registry records so that any Whois tool can see that there is a geofeed associated with this INAM or this family of INAMs, INetNums. So about what is inside the file. So one is the file itself, and what is the semantics of the data inside the file. It is important to think about geolocation, what it means from the spirit of the standard, and also the fact that you may want to have specificity or fineness or accuracy. And I'm using these words loosely and interchangeably at the moment, but we'll think about this a bit more as we go along. So you don't need to geolocate all internet elements as one point on the map. Very often you should identify in a coarser manner, which means I use these set of IPs in the state of Texas, but not necessarily in, say, Austin, Texas. You don't need to specify accuracy, more accuracy than you believe that use case or your manner of deployment aligns with that manner of declaring accuracy. So it is okay to do coarser accuracy for network infrastructure that is distributed widely, or your IP allocation patterns that do not localize to a very small city or a small metropolitan area. So do not use zip codes. They have been deprecated in the standard for a long time for a good reason, because it's really easy to have zip codes around the world, not just in the US, which are geolocated to very small populations or very small buildings or very small properties. So please avoid using it unless you have some pressing business reason. And us at Fastah, for example, we consciously discard that column completely and consciously choose to ignore it. So this example is about the broadness or the high, the coarse specificity, so to speak, that we can assign to IPs or a group of IPs. And this is an example taken from MaxMind's blog. So thank you, guys from MaxMind in this room. And this tells you an example that if you just want to specify no city, so as your block of IPs is geolocated by an aggregator to a larger geographical area, you can do that and you should do that. And that's absolutely the appropriate thing to do for a very large amount of use cases where these IPs are not being used in a residential or a static context. And hence it's okay either from a mobile carrier's perspective or from a satellite like Starlink class of ISPs, or any sort of network infra where you want to distribute routers across, say, the broader New England area, it's okay to specify course specificity. So this we've discussed. You can slice this many ways. You don't have to limit yourself to identifying the city. You can go as back as the country. And there is another mode of not specifying the country at all. If you have network elements that do not belong in a use case that needs to be geolocated. If you have an interchange point where you have a router that should not need to be geolocated, you can just set the country field to an empty string. And according to the standard, that means that there is no geolocation logically attributable to that class of IPs. So please do use that. It's in the feature set, and you should expect aggregators of information to respond to you publishing data in those formats and methods. So this is the missing part that a lot of people do not practice. Even the large ISPs and cloud companies are somewhat spotty on this. It is easy to add to your RIR records. If you're leasing IPs, please ask the company you're leasing from to create a separate inet num in the RIR records for you. So you have the right to update metadata for your block and point to a geofeed specifically that you manage, right? So you control the RIR identity, and it's easy for aggregators to cross-check that those IPs actually belong to you administratively, so that the contents of the feed are verifiable against your whois records. Common sense things about hosting: please don't geoblock the RFC feed file. It's there to help people. Crawlers are the audience for it, so please let people who are aggregating information access to these files. So we'll switch a bit to coding agents and how to reduce the heavy lift on authoring as well as tuning these. So this is a broad introduction for those who have used chat, GitHub Copilot Chat, or Claude Code. These are generic steps that you can do about taking a CSV separated file or just a list of IPs and asking a chat agent to both understand the standard, which is usually about thinking deeply. Thinking deeply is a keyword that AI LLM agents use to run their model, which is capable of handling larger text segments and reasoning deeper and better about it. So you can point it to an RFC standard, and you can ask it to think deeply about that RFC standard. It's going to ingest the whole text of RFC 8805, which by itself is not very large. And it's easy to comprehend both for humans, by the way, as well as for machines. And you can, if you just want to try it in the lab, in your home, just for experiment's sake, it should be pretty easy to get started with these kind of chat steps on your GitHub Copilot Chat. There is a generic topic in AI tools that MCP servers are ways to add specific knowledge to LLMs. What that means is LLMs are statistical aggregations of information, but if you need to geo-look up a certain city, you will need to look up a Google Maps class of platform or a Mapbox Maps kind of platform, things which are designed specifically for containing the latest geographical place names and things like that. So to ease the burden, I have made a self-help tool that you guys can download at home or on your Play Sandbox or a virtual machine at work. This is called an AI skill. An AI skill is a way of expressing the set of chat prompts that I told you in the previous slide in a more packaged manner. And what you can go home and do is grab this URL. You may take a photo of it. I'll come back later with a QR code. But if you want to take a photo so that you can play with these set of chat prompts or AI prompts at home, you are welcome to do that. This is free as in beer and free as in speech GitHub repository. So please use it as an experiment tool. All the best practices that I just told you about have been written into it, both, and the spec, the RFC standard is also packaged into it. and it works with these popular coding agents with minimal amount of getting started work. So what comes out of it is a very easy to understand report. You have these large CSVs which can go to hundreds of thousands of records for a larger cloud company. So it gives you these good looking reports like this. You can use this as a daily workflow or a weekly workflow whenever you publish a CSV or want to make edits to it. You can run and see all the errors and deficiencies and how to fix it, right? But that's not all. So please pardon the puns here. God bless this man. He brought a lot of humor to our lives for a few decades. You see results like this if you go into the drill down. What this is showing is the suggestions in blue. I'll get to other colors in the next slides. On the top, it says the filter called suggestions is on. The region codes are empty. The region and state are used interchangeably in the standard. State and provinces are the old name. They now call it region because you don't have to use, say, only Massachusetts or Texas. In other countries where there are other ways of organizing things than just states, you can go and use other ISO2 subdivisions of the country, as long as they're registered with the ISO2 standards body. So it warns you on the right in the messages column that there are things that you can improve. For example, we were talking about Arlington in the earlier workshop, and if you just say US as the country and Arlington as the city, to me, I can at least name 3 Arlingtons. One is Arlington, Massachusetts, where I lived myself, Arlington, Texas, and Arlington, Virginia, as one of the 3 important things that I come right off the top of my head. So if I'm a company who's aggregating your feed and it just says US and Arlington, I have absolutely no idea which of those 3 it belongs to. So please do not do that. Please be more specific. And this tool is helping you flag all of these issues so you can proactively help people like us not guess what you mean, but actually be more specific about what you mean. This is the warnings list. This is a little bit up in the severity or the criticality. And not all of these are RFC driven. A lot of these are opinionated errors that I have in my personal, in my preference, I have put them on the tool. So for example, it shows large IPv6, verify that you really meant to publish a /45 IPv6 subnet. So anything which is bigger than a /64 is currently flagged. Now, a lot of you have a lot of IPv6s, and this is probably okay with you. But just for the sake of making you cross-check what you meant, this is flagging it as a warning. Anything, and did you really mean to declare that all of these subnets should not be geolocated? Because if it is intentional that you're setting them all to empty, this is a good thing. But if you did not mean and you forgot to write the geolocation names, place names, that's probably an error that you should review. Again, a more of higher up the food chain in the errors list is that you try to be helpful to us, but we had no idea what is DIF in the country of Mexico, which state or subdivision is DIF, because it was not in the standards ISO2 standards list for Mexico subdivisions. So these are actually errors from Cloudflare's feed. Cloudflare's feed has about 100,000 entries, and they are a very good and aggressive publisher of these feeds. But even their feed has a bunch of errors, and nothing to dunk on them. They're doing a great job. But by themselves, if they fix these things, all of these large IPv6 allocations, and in this case, small /32 single host IPv4 will also be geolocated correctly and not summarily discarded and ignored by a processor, right? So specific knowledge, like I alluded to in the past, are things like looking up in a Google Maps API or a Mapbox API or any other specific information in a specific database, right? We have told this GitHub package that I gave you that here is the RFC standard please apply your deep thinking mode to process the text and understand what it is before it starts giving you feedback on the CSV. But it does not know about latitudes and longitudes of places. It does not know about all of the Arlingtons in the US, for example, or it may have outdated information. For those, you want to use what is called an MCP server. And MCP servers are, again, like a USB port. They are an extensibility interface for LLMs and AI engines. So you can plug in an MCP port and plug in a capability to it. And on your chat, you can say, please use this MCP server and go look up what are the possible state codes for, say, Vienna in Austria. And it's going to punch in 80-9. Things like I said, disambiguation of Arlington, USA, which one did you mean? It should give you a choice. Did you mean Virginia, Massachusetts, or Texas, or any others that we hold dear in our lives? And if you want to do visualization of data, like if you're managing like Cloudflare, 100,000 entry IP feed, you may want to see on a map, because that's faster cognitively and things are much more visual. It's easier to catch errors and deviations from what you meant versus what it's being construed as. So if you want to do interactive things like putting things on a map, you can take that package that I gave you and add your chat comments and work with the LLM tool to make it visualize it in a way that you think is appropriate. So that's what these extensibility platforms allow you to do. So I suggest Mapbox MCP. The package on GitHub has some references to it, but you'll still have to prompt it additionally. We can work on it and improve it based on your feedback. The other MCP I recommend for you is GitHub, in case you're interested in pushing the CSV that you have written directly onto your GitHub repository for your organization. GitHub, I suggest, not because I'm a Microsoft guy, but because Git is a good platform for change control, and you can diff your CSVs as you go along. And this integrates with the GitHub APIs, so you can publish from the comfort of your coding agent, and you don't have to ask your company to set up an Apache virtual host or some other configuration or an S3 bucket specifically for Geofeeds. You can just give folks like us who process these feeds the raw URL to your resource on a public repository, and that's perfectly fine and adequate for the current state of the craft. I have personally written another RFC 8805 semantic checker. This is mentioned in this tool. It's still very much in the works, but it's going to do things similar to what the Mapbox server is saying, except instead of using Mapbox's geographical names, it's going to use GeoNames, which is an open source database of place names, which a lot of companies in this room use as the de facto standard for geographical names. So it's going to compare what you've typed into the CSV against what the state of the industry currently uses as a way to infer what you typed and map it to a real city or a state or a country. So this is in progress, but these are the extensibility things that you can play with today. At least the first two are commercial products as of today. They have generous free plans, and GitHub is mostly free. And if you have an enterprise plan with GitHub, then it probably becomes even more easier for you to experiment with these things. So that's a wrap. We have time for questions. We've told you what are geofeeds, how to author them like a champion, and how to manage what the world perceives your IPs to be originating traffic from. So yeah, go ahead. The world is your oyster. Please author all the geofeeds you want. Experiment with these skill. Please take a photo of this, and that's it. Open to questions if you have any, debates, critique, all of the above.
Look, can I ask a question?
Please go ahead.
This is Jack from ByteDance. I have a question for the IP city level location. For example, if I travel to China, Beijing, I'm still using the Verizon, to access the internet, right? But when I search my IP address, it's saying that the IP is US IP, but no, that's not right. because I'm in Beijing, the IP should be yeah, the IP, the registry information belongs to Horizon US, but I was in Beijing. There should be, at that time, the IP should be in Beijing. So, yeah, so how do you get this geolocation accurately?
Yeah, so that's a tough one. That brings into the debate of IP geolocation. Is it telling you the user's geolocation?
Yeah.
Or is it telling you the network egress location? If your traffic is egressing in Hong Kong on Singapore because you are on some routing arrangement or a VPN, then the IP address will belong to a Hong Kong entity or say a Singapore entity, right? But you as a user are in Beijing, but the IP has no way of defining that because it does not belong to generally something that is operated out of Beijing, right? So there are a lot of gaps. If I understood your question correctly, and I may be wrong,
Yeah.
and please forgive me if I'm wrong.
You're right, but one more question: do you have used the a probing system to pin the IP to get the latency? If the latency, for example, you use Beijing latency.
No, we do not, and I personally would not want to do that for various reasons. But the next speaker after me will have a lot of thoughts on how to use ping times to infer that. So maybe I think the next talk after this might have more answers for you. But my view is that if say Uber Eats or Uber somebody wants to use your location, they should just ask for your GPS location using your app and not try to use IP geolocation, which is quite explicitly wrong tool for the job. So there are a lot of use cases where IP geolocation is the wrong tool for the job. And despite me being in that business, I'll be the first person to say, please do not use our tool for that job. And that helps me as a developer also. I write software. I want to build interfaces and APIs that people use for 10 years or 5 years and be not lying to them after 1 year. I don't want them to be outdated so quickly. So in order to keep the defensible area of the product small, you have to say these things are not suitable for your use case. Please go use other technology. Here are what things you can use, right? So we don't do that very well as a world, as a set of companies in this ecosystem, but we can do better. And this is one way to educate at least the authors that they have rights on how to segment and make it broader or smaller. It's not the perfect tool, and not everybody will infer your feed the same way, but we have to start somewhere.
Thanks.
So, yeah.
Mark Costers from Aaron. And one of the things I liked your talk a lot. It was very good. One of the things I like to mention is there are standards, and there's even more standards. And there's one I like to point out to you that was not on your talk that's coming. And that's RFC 9877. And it's doing RDAP using geofeeds. And so RDAP is a new protocol that's coming out to be a replacement for WHOIS. It's going to be something that all the regional registries are going to support, and are all going to support it the same way, including dealing with geofeeds. So if you could add that as part of your talk and hopefully part of your tool set, because that's coming soon. So
I love RDAP. I use it every day myself, and it's just easily, consistently machine readable, unlike WHOIS. So when I personally say WHOIS, I mean RDAP, because I use that programmatically all the time, and that's the authoritative way of parsing feeds and cross IRR interoperability, like you said.
Great. Awesome. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you.
Any other questions? No.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're done.
Sid.
Thank you.
Thank you for the great.